Hello, this is Dr. S. Slime, head researcher of the Silver Archive project. Today I will be recording my observations on anomaly SAP D3312. You're listening to a secure tape. Keep this in mind as you take note of every detail as it relates to your specific duties. SAP D3312 is an aberrant cervid anomaly, a deer-like entity monstrosity. It is endemic to regions saturated with the stardust pollutant. This eldritch beast manifests as a gaunt spectral deer seemingly twisted by extreme stardust contamination. D3312's eyes reside in hollow socket voids that blaze as blackened stars, radiating an endless rage through their ominous and piercing gaze. Notably, D3312 wields a biologically derived spear clutched in its right forelimb. The spear itself is overtaken by a twisted physiology of non-Euclidean geometry that shimmers in and out of dimensional existence as a materialization of silvery purple tendrils that branch fractally from its form, that appear to actively draw in the eldritch effluvium of stardust from the environment, leading to the formation of abdominal fleshy clusters and purple nodules that defy mortal geometry throughout its expanding affected area as it permeates the infected landscape with this miasma of cosmic decay, further corrupting everything around it. With the accumulation of stardust, the creature's body appears to begin amassing into a grotesque, pulsating form of violet masses that stretch and crack with the cacophony of sounds that is the breaking of bones and sinew during what can only be seen as a rebirthing phase, where after a short time the creature has reformed its accumulated mass back into its deer form to become an even greater, larger entity than before. Meanwhile, within these stardust-blighted zones, the vultures, the indigenous scavenger group driven to maddening rapture by the stardust's insidious whispers, have erected simplistic altars of shall we say, for modesty's sake, a crude Halloween-themed offering of pillars, skeletons, and scarecrows amid the ruins. The vultures then assemble a mass at these effigies, their minds warped as they begin chanting these nonsensical incantations echoing in discordant non-linear harmonies. These dissonant, shall we call them animal calls, shift greatly in amplitude and frequency, yet remain harmonious in their chaos. I find these calls to be evolutionarily offensive to me. Every fiber of my being is repulsed and geared to become defensive in a sort of reactionary posturing as the noise immediately initiates this acoustic startle reflex within me, or I just become so incredibly uncomfortable and the vultures, in contrary, they seem entranced and respond furiously if taken out of this chanting circle or disturbed in any way. They appear to have no knowledge of their involvement of the ritual, but they react immediately with the act of seemingly unprovoked hostility. Perhaps D3312's influence overwrites their mind's ability to experience consciousness, existence in real time, and instead replacing it with the override of any form of memories of tribalistic defensiveness, and it then fills their mind with these overwhelming thoughts to provoke the body to such a zombie, or perhaps corrupting human consciousness entirely. It is advised to not remove safety equipment beyond the regular stardust considerations, due to this unknown and disheartening cosmic disturbance that will no doubt lead to even worse situations than previously imagined. A fate seemed driven by an almost uncontrollable obsession with the stardust, as if its influence is slowly consuming the minds before for the consumption of the flesh we are familiar with. Perhaps it is simply a worse fate into a familiar one, or perhaps if left unobserved, these worshippers would be left to evolve into something even worse through D3312's machinations than we can even begin to hope to understand. Yet, SAP D3312 is known to aggressively charge any human daring to trespass into its dominion, and it meets them with ferocious, calculated strikes from its spear. Distance, however, is no measurement of safety. At length, D3312 will cast its spear outward with great concussive force, but that is not the real fear. Upon flight, tendrils will erupt from the spear's surface, seeking any living, non-living, or entity flesh, and it will animate it to its will by binding their essence to the creature's eldritch influence. It is unknown what the limits of this tentacle application are. When its tendrils make contact, they create a binding effect to the flesh that has been inhabited, and they thicken into long waving tentacles that act as leashes for the spear. The fascinating effect that it has on the host flesh is that it becomes surrounded by an unknown field of perhaps antimatter particles that appear to repel all physical interactions by matter in our universe, not permitted by the bounded. However, any action taken by the bounded to interact with matter from this universe paradoxically is given complete access. This effectively grants the affected tissue a strange cosmic form of absolute immunity shielding from our entire universe, while also being the worst possible interaction possible, making all matter completely helpless to its demands. But this effect comes at the cost of the affected flesh's autonomy. This tentacleization also appears to draw the affected entities deeper into the anomaly's influence. There exists only one known vulnerability within the Eldritch shielding system, which seems to be the complete destruction of D3312's spear, which is immensely difficult given that it is often split into multiple forms as well as accompanied by various tentacleized host bodies. The destruction of the spear form, however, releases all flesh from their tendril parasitic influence, and all involved regain vulnerability, allowing them to be destroyed. Securement procedures. Use remote observation tools and stasis field equipment with spectrographic sensors to track the creature's movements. Identify and extend this observation to known stardust-saturated altars and all derelict outposts. Install any possible suppression devices around known stardust-contaminated areas to disrupt the spear's non-Euclidean energy field growth through stardust. Enforce an inclusion zone of at least 300 meters from any observed manifestations. Do. Continuously monitor anomalous stardust concentrations as rapid mass accumulation signals an imminent escalation of eldritch corruption. Immediately report any rapid increases in stardust mass or unusual activity to your SAP Critical Anomaly Response Division, CARD. Document, analyze, and archive all audio and visual data from eldritch chants emanating from vulture altars for analysis. Restrict access to high-risk zones to trained personnel only. Do not engage or attempt to physically restrain SAP D3312 entities without at least Tier 3, preferably Tier 5 equipment. Do not interfere with the vulture altars outside D3312 securement. They serve as critical indicators of the phenomenon's spread and analysis of stardust activity. Do not permit unsanctioned personnel into high-risk stardust contamination zones. Now, the following is a field report from one Dr. Philly Thompson, a SAP research scientist. Addendum: SAP D3312 Field Report. First person account. Begin audio log.
This is Dr. Philly Thompson, SAP Field Research, recording field observations near Delta 16C. Time, 23:13 hours. I've been monitoring an area of severe stardust contamination for the last 3 days. The plant growth patterns here are accelerating and converting into these dense, fibrous masses. The air here feels heavy, charged, pressing down on me. I hear whispers from nowhere, but I don't know, understand them. But the vultures come here. They put up another altar when I slept. I guess they know. They watch me. Us. Maybe. But it's more like they just know somehow. The altar is more intricate than the last one I documented. Bone fragments. Melted metal. Those odd carvings that look almost symmetrical. But they change when you look at them. They're so elaborate. The wildlife here is erratic. Mutations, heightened aggression, unnatural resilience. I've seen deer with eyes like polished obsidian, solid and empty, watching from the tree line, but never blinking, just staring at me for hours. I fear them. Sometimes the eyes are missing, but they still stare. But tonight, I saw something much worse. Why I'm all alone now. It was a crocodile, or what used to be one, visibly altered by stardust exposure. Its scales were a sickly violet glow, yet they were black, iridescent resin. It moved. God, I don't even know how to describe it. It came out of the swamp and made its way towards our camp. I couldn't. I had left everything when I went to look at this nodule. It's my fault. But it didn't matter. Our crew was just scientists hired by Rosetta. But they did give us T5s. We should have been fine. It had been fine. But it didn't matter because D3312 came from the woods. It bound into the field and looked at the crocodile and the researchers touching its altar, and flew into a rage and galloped towards the altar, rearing back on its hind legs as it approached and hurled its spear into the ground beneath the altar, knocking several of the researchers to the ground, who began recoiling in full mindless horror at its arrival. Almost immediately, these silver fibers erupted from the spear and plunged themselves into the nearby crocodile and began filling themselves and pulsing rhythmically. It didn't lumber. It moved too unnaturally, like a marionette pulled carelessly by invisible strings. And then I saw the eyes, hollow sockets, burning with that calling void, the same as D3312. The beast charged the encampment as if commanded by it. They threw cups, glassware, the T5s, everything at it, but it had been imbued with a grotesque immunity by the malignant power of D3312's spear, and shrugged it all off without hesitating. I could only watch as those jaws ripped through the entire camp. I heard the chaos, the panicked shrieks, and then everything went quiet, except for the crunching and the deep, hollow snorting and wheezing of D3312. I don't know how long I was there, until I shook free and I crawled away on my stomach, fleeing through all the stardust muck. Everything is still here, swirling. Mists, angled wrong and writhing. I don't know where to go. I haven't slept. I want to keep going. The words spill out too fast, tripping over each other. A river breaking its banks, my heart deafening, frantic. I have to whisper. If they hear the rage and terror, they'll find me. They'll tear me apart. I can't slow down. My mouth is tongue thick as I choke words out. Report. Yes, the report. Must submit report before thought unravels completely. SAP D3312. Not what we thought. No, so much worse. The walls themselves shift, breathing, adapting. I taste metal. I taste fear. The air is wrong, sharp, crackling against my skin. Not what we thought. No, so much worse. Panic, hyperventilating. Not what we thought. No, so much worse. The walls breathing. I taste my skin. We need defensive measures. We must. Please. We should. Whine, cry, hurt, pain.
End of recovered audio log. The tape from Dr. Thompson, along with a single human hand, was recovered amongst the stomach contents of a large stardust corrupted bear that wandered near our facility. This bizarre discovery only underscores the unpredictable and dangerous nature of SAP D3312's influence. Please exercise extreme caution and ensure all field teams are properly equipped and accompanied by disciplined defensive patrols, informed with the knowledge contained within this report in the future. Ongoing research will be focused on understanding the spear's energy field and how it channels and concentrates stardust. Until we know more, SAP D3312 must be treated as a severe, evolving danger to all life within its reach. Remember, Rosetta is the reason you are alive. Good day.